This is a tweet that one Sylvester McCoy retweeted.
Mm-hmm.
Rihanna, as in the singer, obviously, what other one, has said that Sylvester McCoy's Seventh Doctor is her personal favourite version of the character. He's just very small and it makes me laugh. I would like to pick him up and throw him.
What?
She told that to Variety.
Sylvester McCoy's going to pick that up and just think, humans.
I really hope that this is actually genuine. I mean, I feel like it's probably complete rubbish, but my God, is it funny. So obviously, if we're going to be talking about Halloween Ends, the question is, what is your beverage of choice?
I mean, what do you think it is?
Is it just water?
Yeah.
Oh,
There is a bottle of, like, Famous Grouse whiskey, like, all the way over there. But
okay.
I don't really want to move.
That seems fair. Yeah, I'm currently drinking...
Okay, hold on.
What?
I'll do a...
It's a bit disconcerting that you've got a knife on your shelf.
Actually wasn't that far away. I don't know why I was complaining. Then again, I complain about everything.
Well, because you are you. Ugh. Are you actually going to start drinking it? Get in. So you've got Famous Grouse. Oh my God, you're drinking it straight out of the bottle.
Oh yeah. Nothing like a bit of whiskey burn.
I prefer just sunburn, frankly. If I'm honest, because I'm not a fan of whiskey.
I think it depends, like, on the whiskey. Like, some whiskeys I can just, like, have in a shot, and some I just have to have with something.
So you have Famous Grouse whiskey. I have it's actually a drink called Muckle Tickle.
Muckle Tickle? What kind of...
Muckle Tickle.
That sounds like some, like, moonshine that Macapaca from In the Night Garden's been brewing in his cave.
No, it's a golden ale. We got it from it was a market stall in Hexham last week, I think it was. Done by Muckle Brewery, which isn't too far from Hexham anywhere. So we got like a pack of 4 bottles.
I think, from my vague recollection, I do like ales, but it depends on the ale. I think the last time I had an ale was like a ruby ale or something like that. I don't know what the hell any of that means, but yeah, I mean, it just tastes like lager to me.
Yeah,
but a bit different. I think it just depends on like the percentage of alcohol and stuff in it. I think it just depends.
Well, I think it's safe to say if we're finally going to end our bloody thoughts on the Halloween franchise, I might as well go all out and have some alcohol, because my goodness, have we got things to say. But anyway, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where we talk all things movies, TV shows, video games, and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan, as ever, and I'm joined by my horror fanatic co-host, it's Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hi everybody, and good evening, Regan. Episode 34?
34, yes.
Yes, 34, I got it right.
34,
yes!
34.
So would you like to explain what is today's topic, or agenda, or...
Well, Dan, it is the end. It is the end of a franchise, fucking hopefully.
I'm just going to say right here and now, don't hold your breath.
Oh, no, I'm not. You know, I've seen enough of these films now, which I can say finally. I've actually seen them all. We are now talking about Halloween Ends. Spoiler talk. Well, we'll be doing spoiler-free stuff for a little bit first before moving on to spoilers. This is, I think it's safe to say, your most anticipated film of 2022, to say the least.
Yeah, the only other film, and I don't know how long ago it was announced, but it was Smile. When I saw the trailer for that, I knew I wanted to see that. Really good film, so if you haven't watched it, audience, I'd recommend seeing it before it's taken out of cinemas. I don't know how long they'll keep it in, but go see it now, because I don't really think many people would really go see that again. I would certainly would, because honestly, like, it's probably the scariest film I've seen in years. And this is somebody who just watches horror
one of the scariest
every
films
single day of his damn no living existence outside of his room. Yeah, the room is my temple.
Clearly. You with your Michael Myers faces and your knife and your stupid vinyls and your IKEA furniture and my goodness.
Don't forget the red LEDs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, like the webcam quality is a bit naff. I just assumed it was just like a weird blur on the screen.
It's just blood.
Yeah. You're covering everything in blood again. But yes, we are talking about Halloween Ends, and afterwards we'll be discussing our playlists for the week. And as ever, Dan has beaten me on that because I think it's fairly obvious at this point.
I mean, you never know.
I mean, how we're...
You never know.
We've been doing this for 10 months, Dan. I think I figured it out.
Well, maybe I'm just egging you on. Maybe it's just like a false hope of myself kind of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
I'm just giving myself false hope.
Yeah, you are. But yeah, we will just head straight into it. So Halloween Ends, this came out literally yesterday as we're recording this. We're recording this a day early because Dan has decided he has other plans on the day of recording, which frankly is an absolute joke, and I'm very, very, very triggered.
The nerve of the co-host.
Yeah, I'm so triggered. I'm gonna put on a William Shatner mask and paint it white and just go stalk around the town for the 13th time. Oh no, sorry, 12th time. We have to be precise because he isn't in one of them. Well, he is, but in a weird.
He's just cameo. In a very weird cameo. Yeah.
I still don't understand that. But yes, Halloween Ends. As I said, Dan's most anticipated film of the year besides Smile. I was certainly more interested in this after seeing Halloween Kills last year. And then I sat through the rest of the Halloween franchise over the past few weeks, and I really started to question what reality even is anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think it involves 13 Halloween films, because my God.
We've mentioned this before, but we're going to be talking about Halloween, like the franchise, in a bit more depth on my horror podcast, where Regan is going to be the co-host. It's a turn of tables.
Turn of so many.
We're going to be asking a lot of questions about this franchise, especially some of the films.
Yeah, some of them that are better than others, and some of them that I've got slightly hotter takes than you were expecting, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we're going to hear this in this episode. We're going to hear it in this episode as well.
Yeah, we are. But yes, we'll kick things off with our spoiler-free thoughts on the film. So we'll kick things off with everyone's favourite Halloween fanatic, Dan. What did you think? Because bearing in mind, we both saw this yesterday, and I don't actually know your thoughts, because as soon as we left the cinema, we had to leave pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
And I decided to jokingly stay silent again. It's in pretty similar to what happened with Halloween Kills, where I thought, I'm just going to play this for just a little bit longer.
Do you know what it is? I think it was a little bit more sinister because you just had no facial expression, much like Michael Myers. You just walked out the cinema just not saying a damn diddly thing.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But yes. Go on, Dan.
As you've said, and as I've said, I've wanted to see this film ever since the trailer dropped, ever since it was teased. Because, why not? I love the Halloween franchise. Most of it, not all of it, most of it.
Yeah, you do.
Now, strictly just focusing on David Gordon Green's trilogy, I love the first one, which is the 2018 Halloween one, which you don't like. Kills, we have pretty much the same agreement on it. We both like it.
Yep,
it's enough to say we I think even like the issues we have with it, we're pretty much on the same kind of track with it as well.
Yep.
Now, Halloween Ends. This is actually the longest Halloween film so far.
Yep. Oh, this is either going to be I thought it was a travesty against humanity, or I don't know still.
Look, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on like previous episodes that I was worried for this film because it's how do you really, the way Kills ended, I was kind of questioning where the film would go next. Because it was pretty obvious they were gunning for another sequel, as the 2018 one did as well. It leaves with the kind of cliffhanger thing. In this case, Kills, it was Michael's killing Karen, and then we get the close-up of the bloody burnt mask, and then the titles come in. This film was a bit of a disappointment.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
It's not bad. it's not
No.
great either. It's just somewhere in the middle, and maybe that'll change when I rewatch it somewhere in the next couple of weeks, maybe like next week, maybe the week after. But by God, I was disappointed.
I could definitely tell when I was sat next to you because you were very, very quiet. And even when I got up, you were still sat there just like, So I think at that point I was like, he either has absolutely no idea how to feel, or there's stuff that happened in that you weren't a fan of, which it sounds like it's closer to
Definitely sort of that one. You've kind of pinched the knot there. There are some things in that film that I think just don't work at all, and I'm kind of questioning why they're there.
Yeah.
But again, like I'm trying to keep it like spoiler free until we actually do the spoilers. But
Yeah.
look, it wasn't terrible. That's the main point of view. I mean, Carpenter's score is still great. I really like it, despite only hearing it like on the day, like literally going to meet you to go see the film, literally listening into it on the bus. And yeah, I like it. I mean, I like all of Carpenter's Halloween scores, and even though he's done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I think it's only a few.
six
I
now.
think.
Well, he did the first one. He did the second one. He did Season of the Witch. He did the title for Halloween 4.
And he will have done the new ones then.
Yeah, and he did all 3 of Gordon Green's with like Cody Carpenter and somebody else as well, who I can't remember the name of. I really like him, but we'll certainly get to why I have issues with it. But for now, what did you think of this ending?
Well, it's quite a unique position for me because when I saw Halloween Kills, because initially I was going to try and watch quite a few of the Halloween films last October. So I'd watched the original on the 1st of October, and then I think I watched the 2018 soft reboot just maybe like a week or so before we saw Halloween Kills, and I thought,
Yeah, I think
I can't really be bothered to watch all of them, or even some of them, so I figured I'll just stick with the original and the 2018 one, because at least Halloween Kills is a sequel to that one.
Well, at least you did the sensible thing by sticking to the timeline that everyone just favours anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And quite frankly, the only reason I decided to watch all the other sequels was because the majority were on Netflix or on streaming services. Some of them were leaving by the end of September, so I had the bulk of the first 5 or 6 to watch before they left.
Yeah, I think it was 2, 3, 4, 5, and Resurrection was on there for a time being, but then they took that off, and now H2O became on there. But yeah, that's how I watched most of them.
And I only just finished watching Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 this week as well, which I'll get to. So going into Halloween Ends, I now have more of an understanding of what kind of franchise Halloween is. I now know what makes a good Halloween film and what makes a bad one, or an embarrassing one, or a questionable one. It's one of those franchises where there's just they're kind of all over the place, and quite frankly, the only reason it still exists as a franchise is because it's lucrative. Because you look at like critical reviews of these films, no one cares. Like even, I was listening to Mark Kermode's review of Halloween Ends. It sounded bored of his life, frankly.
Yeah.
So with Halloween Ends, I think I like it more than the 2018 one. I think.
You think, yeah.
I don't prefer it to Kills. I much prefer Kills. More so only because there's character moments in that film that don't piss me off nearly as much as this one does. Like, there's characters in this film that make unbelievably stupid decisions that just make you go, do you actually have a functioning brain? Or did you kind of just like fall off the hospital bed at birth, because I'm really starting to question you right now.
Yeah, definitely.
It is the longest film, and it absolutely feels like it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, realistic.
Runtime of like 111 minutes. I mean, that is pretty long.
I mean, it's long by Halloween standards. It's certainly not long by other film standards. I've watched plenty of films.
I think when you compared, like, that to some other horror films like Doctor Sleep and stuff like that, it's got nothing on it. But for a Halloween film, as I've mentioned, it's like the longest one in the franchise so far.
That being said, I think one of the biggest issues is the fact that clearly the filmmakers didn't know what kind of film this was going to be, because if you look at the synopsis that they released for the film, and you look at the trailers, they're telling two very different things.
Yeah.
Very, very different. Like, you watch the trailers and it's like, oh, it's going to be the final epic confrontation between Laurie and Michael Myers. That isn't what this film is. And when you get to that point, it's kind of superfluous, and I'm going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the confrontation between the two in the 2018 film hits a lot harder than this one. That one feels like the actual finale, and I think if you had like the first half of Halloween Ends and the second half of the 2018 Halloween, I think it would work slightly better. But I only say slightly because the main bulk of this film is a really questionable decision. Like, there are a lot of questionable decisions in this film that really made me go, is this really the film you actually wanted to make? Because it seems very last minute, and not just because of COVID. So for me, I don't think I was nearly as disappointed as you were, because I binged a lot of these films over the last month.
You've kind of just like went in quality, hasn't it? Like, because you've seen them all quite recently, the quality line just kind of goes. So at least when you expected the disappointment of it, like, it's not so bad. But as somebody who like absolutely adores the 2018 one, pretty much like, well, I like Kills as well. I was kind of expecting this one to not necessarily be better than the 2018 one, because obviously it's like a first thing, but I was kind of expecting it to outdo Kills a little bit. I mean, go to Scream, the whole rules of a sequel is you outdo the predecessor.
There's a lot of stuff in this that actually reminded me of Scream.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff in that film that reminded me a lot of stuff, Regan, which we'll get to.
Yeah. It's kind of got its own like theme of like looking at how evil takes so many different shapes and forms, but the way it addresses it is completely pointless, because it's all fixed around a particular character who we've never met before until this film, and it's really asking us to care, and unfortunately that really doesn't work. I've got my own theory as to what it should have been, which I'll be curious as to what you think, but we'll get to that in spoilers. But as I say, it's the 13th Halloween film, which frankly is the unlucky number, and it's trying to end it. And I think it's safe to say, this trilogy is absolutely 100% the end. There's no way they could do a fourth one.
Oh, no, there is absolutely no way on earth, and we'll explain why, but there is no way on earth.
Yeah. There's definitely directions I think they could go, which again we'll discuss in the spoiler bit, which might be a fairly sizable hot take. Overall, I think the film is alright.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I don't think it's a good movie, because it still makes some really poor decisions, and it's quite tame, surprisingly enough. There's also a certain character who has appeared in virtually all the Halloween films, who is contractually obligated to be in this film, and it's the second time that that's been the case, which is frankly a joke at this point. But yeah, I think for me, without going into spoilers, that's about as much as I could say. I would recommend that people see it though, if you're a fan of this franchise, because it does feel pretty final. But at the same time, even John Carpenter has since said, look, if it makes money, we'll find a way to make more.
Of course,
which frankly is
not
a mindset I like. Like, I really despise that mindset of like, well, if it makes money, then clearly people like it. That's not the case.
No,
at all.
But it's not. It's you can't even say it's just for Halloween. It's the case with any film. If a film makes money, naturally the studios are going to think, right, well, next film in progress. And
well, when you think about it, there's two or three Transformers films that nearly made $1 billion or slightly more, and you're not going to have me saying they're actually any good, because they're not. They're terrible films. Maybe minus the third one. It's actually pretty decent, if I'm honest. But I'm not here to do hot takes on Transformers. We're talking about Halloween.
Yeah, do you know what it is? I mean, I wasn't expecting like a film close to the original. There's never going to be a film like that.
Oh,
That's
no.
just it. But I was at least expecting it to satisfy me in terms of like ending Halloween properly. And I think we can generally both agree here that it has some ideas, but they're just kind of all over the place. They're not constructed together too well. So it's like 1 minute there's something going on here, then the next minute it's something else, and it's too confusing at times. Well, as you said, like it's trying to think what this film is actually trying to be. Are you trying to be a Halloween film? Because sometimes it really doesn't feel like a Halloween film.
Yeah, I think what it feels like is someone came in one day with a script for one horror film, and then they were looking at, well, we need to find a way to end the Halloween trilogy. What if we do that film and just bolt on an ending?
Yeah.
And then that's it, which are barely connected. And that's what it feels like it is, which is surprising, because you'd think after Halloween Kills, they would have had a specific way to go, which I know, fair enough, you couldn't just do the same night or the next night, which quite frankly I wouldn't want them to do. So I actually like the fact it cuts forward a couple of years and it works to its benefits. I actually like it.
Oh yeah, I'm glad they didn't just do like a continuation of it. Like I think it would have been a bit, well, just wouldn't have been too good.
Yeah, actually, I think one of the slightly more disappointing things, actually, before we go into spoilers, is the fact that the filmmakers claimed that this film was going to address COVID. So COVID was going to exist in this universe, and there's not a single reference. And I thought, I actually would have liked that, because I've not seen anything mainstream that references COVID. Like, the only other film I can think of was Host from back in 2020. It was like a found footage laptop film with people talking over Zoom. And there's like a supernatural presence. I actually really liked it. It was actually really effective. But now you have other films that are just trying to like act as if COVID never happened. Like something like The Batman, you would never know was shot during COVID. Then you got the Marvel movies that are quite clearly shot during COVID because they look terrible. But I would have liked to have seen a film that does actually acknowledge that COVID exists. I think there is one, also starring Zoe Kravitz, surprisingly enough, that came out. I think it was last year. I forget the name, but it's on my watch list. But yeah, I actually would have quite liked that. Would have felt a little bit more real. But at the same time, my other issues with this film do not address COVID. It doesn't need to.
Oh no, my issues with that film are far beyond COVID.
No, well, I think we've said about as much as we can spoiler free, so I think we'll just move swiftly on to spoilers. So as I say, this is your
we'll put a disclaimer now. We'll say now, this is the spoiler part. So if you want to see it, now is the time not to listen to us rant on about this.
Well, because here's the thing, we've said it's a disappointing film, but if you're a big fan of the Halloween franchise or you just want to see it end, obviously you're probably going to go and watch it. It's probably going to make money. At the same time, let's address the actual story of this film. Mm-hmm. So, as I say, when you look at the trailers and it suggests that it is just going to focus on Laurie Strode finally confronting Michael Myers one last time, again, that is the last 10 or 15 minutes of this film.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even face off at all until then. In reality, what the film is a young boy called Corey Cunningham, who, in probably the best scene in the entire film, I think, is babysitting this little boy who is literally the most annoying thing on the planet outside of
he's a little shit. He's a little shit.
Oh, yeah. Also, no offense, like a 10 or 11-year-old who wants to watch The Thing, I'm not too convinced. Sorry, I love The Thing, but I don't think a 10-year-old would.
Do you know what it is? It's kind of just how he sat there, just so engaged with it. I'm thinking, if I was 10 or 11, I would have been pissing my pants.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, he starts to play pranks on Corey as he's trying to babysit him. And then in a really shocking accident, kicks down a door, and little Jeremy, the little kid that he's supposed to be babysitting, falls, 3 stories, and then smacks off the floor. And even at that point I was like, holy shit, okay, this is not what I was expecting at all. And as I say, it's a very effective opening scene. But that's about it, really. The rest of the film is just kind of...
It's hit and miss. It's definitely hit and miss. But
we're referencing the spoiler-free bit that the film is trying to look at what makes evil. How does evil look? And it's done through... The example that we said was with Corey, who is clearly, he's clearly innocent for the first 20 minutes. Like, it's clearly not his fault, but he's clearly got a lot of pent-up rage that's basically going to make him a slightly younger, slightly less interesting, and slightly less engaging version of Michael Myers, which is ironic considering what they do.
Oh, yes.
So we'll cut straight to Michael Myers, I think, because this is still attached to that. Yeah, as I say, this is like Halloween Resurrection, where he doesn't need to be in this film. In fact, quite frankly, you could cut out the fact that Michael Myers is in this film and swap him out with Corey, which is basically what they do, which is easily like the biggest, boldest decision this film has done, and probably one of the boldest ideas in the entire franchise.
Yep.
To have a copycat killer. I was like, this is Scream. You've literally done Scream 2.
The Scream residue when the whole thing with Corey happened, I thought, I've seen this in films involving a guy in a ghost mask.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, it's in a William Shatner mask instead.
A very disfigured William Shatner mask.
Yeah. So Michael Myers doesn't even pop up until probably like 40 minutes into this film. Bear in mind, it's just under 2 hours. It's
near the sort of... Well, it just feels like it doesn't actually come into the picture till like the midpoint of the film, which to me, that's what the midpoint is when Corey discovers Michael Myers. And let's just address the elephant in the room. Michael Myers isn't in this film for very long at all.
No, he's not.
His screen time, I think, is like 7 minutes or something like that. That's what I read. 7 minutes screen time he's got.
Really?
Yeah, he really doesn't have a lot of screen time when you think about it. The only times we ever see him are the intro in the sewer, or whatever you want to call it, the storm drain. I think it's a sewer, more or less.
Yeah.
Where we get the first shot of him, and then Corey escapes him, and then we get like glances of him in the sewer killing the cop. And then, of course, we have the confrontation between Laurie and Michael, but that's really it. Like, compared to the other ones of how much you see Michael in the other films, not specifically the sequels to the originals and stuff. This is strictly Gordon Green's one of how much you actually see Michael in the films. This he's just kind of hidden, and I'm kind of mixed about this because I have my theory of why they've done this. Obviously, at the end of the kills, towards the end of kills, he faces against the mob led by Tommy Doyle, and he is beaten to a pulp.
Near death. Yeah.
And in ends, he's seen as very weak, I think, considering that Corey can escape him, and usually no one escapes Michael Myers, bar Laurie Strode. That's just the rule of Halloween films, that no one survives bar Laurie Strode, or anyone related to Laurie Strode. Except a couple, like our daughter.
A few.
But it's just, and I'm kind of mixed my interpretation of this. Like, have they done this to signify that Michael Myers is just absolutely on the brink of death now? Or is it just like, Michael Myers doesn't necessarily have to be in this film, which is what you've pointed out, which I think is a good point. Because they could have literally got rid of Michael Myers and made it about Corey. And would it be a better film or not? Maybe.
I'd say no, because I honestly thought that when it gets to that midpoint and he's beating up Myers in the sewer and then takes the mask and walks off, I was like, please tell me for the love of God that the confrontation we've been seeing in the trailers is not Laurie and Corey, because if it is, I'm actually going to hate this film, because that is the worst kind of bait and switch you can do for this franchise. That would be appalling.
I was kind of on edge with that, because I thought, have you just killed Michael? Have you just killed the boogeyman? Like, after all these times of Laurie Strode trying to do that, and some little psychopath can just end him like that, it was like, oh, this is worrying. Eesh.
I found it a little bit funny how they team up for a little bit as well. It's like this is very unusual. I mean, look, I don't hate it because I'd rather the film swing and miss than just be the exact same Halloween film again. And it's quite interesting in how they do it. Again, calling back to the way that evil takes many forms and how Corey is really on this really dark path.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it basically makes Michael just pointless. Absolutely pointless until the very end, because in reality he's not doing very much. He's got absolutely no reason to be in this film. Like, he's not like trying to hunt for Laurie again. He's just kind of roaming around. I do find it quite interesting as well is that, you know, ever since they did this kind of soft reboot trilogy, for one, it's no longer canon that he's Laurie Strode's brother, but also he's not some sort of supernatural entity. And I swear to God, when he kills the cop in the sewer and he's all like weak and stuff, and as he's killing him, he's clearly feeling a bit more rejuvenated. I was like, I think that's your way of trying to suggest that he might not be entirely human, because he's like, because he hasn't killed anyone for years, and he's like just like lumbering around.
Yeah, I remember that because
like
I thought the exact same thing, because, you know, a lot of people will go to say that, you know, that he's not supernatural in this trilogy at all. You know, he's just some absolute monster that can just take all the beatings and shootings that he can. But when he's killing Doug, I think the cop is called, Doug the jealous cop, you see him like kind of like tilting his head and stuff, and it's almost like he's gathering like strength from killing him, and I just thought, okay, let's just rewind a bit. You claim that he's not supernatural anymore, but now he kind of looks like he is. I mean, look, my personal belief of it is that I think he's always had some supernatural ability to him. He's not 100% supernatural, but
no.
Like, even go back to the 2018 one, like the amount of times he gets shot at and stuff like that, and he still just walks around. You can't say to me that he isn't supernatural. Like, a guy who gets shot is gonna fall. He just walks it off. Like the absolute unit that he is. And even in Kills, the guy literally gets shanked, he gets hit with an iron, he gets hit with guns, he gets hit with absolutely everything you can think of, and he just gets up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know all the sequels try to present the idea that he's quite demonic, which I don't like, but I don't know if I prefer him to be supernatural, because I like how he's supposed to be just a guy.
Yeah.
But at this point, he just can't be, because the amount of stuff he goes through, which even when you get to that final confrontation, which we'll get to after we've addressed the Laurie in the room, he still feels like just a little bit too unkillable.
Oh,
which
yeah.
I don't like, because you lose a lot of tension when he just keeps on getting back up. It's like it's like playing a video game and he's just respawning, which is just rubbish, frankly.
It literally is, though. You make a valid point there, Regan. You go in a dungeon and there's Michael Myers.
Franchise.
You stab him, oh, he's dead. You go back into the dungeon, he's respawned. It's basically just that over and over.
Mm-hmm.
But with this
he's literally
instance,
a zombie.
He's just... Well, yeah, he literally is at this point. He may as well be Jason Voorhees at this point.
I was just about to say, he is Jason Voorhees, isn't he?
Like, the ordeal that he goes through in this trilogy, you can't say that he isn't supernatural. Like, who in their right mind is going to survive the ordeal that he has? Like, any natural man who gets his fingers blown off with a shotgun isn't going to keep pursuing somebody. Or even get stabbed in the friggin' eye.
Well, exactly, because he does go through a lot, courtesy of one Laurie Strode, which, if I'm going to be honest, I didn't actually mention this in the spoiler free because I didn't really talk about Jamie Lee Curtis, who I've always really liked it as an actress. I've said my stuff when I've gone through the films. I'm not big on Laurie Strode as a character. I never found her that engaging. This is the first time I've actually really cared. I actually really love the idea that in order to try and get away from all this trauma, she's pouring it into a memoir that can hopefully help other people going through similar PTSD, which I actually really like that.
Do you know what one of the things was worrying me about this is that she was just going to like do what she did in the 2018 reboot, where she just imprisons herself in like a house and makes it a fortress. I was just so worried that they were going to do that again And if they did that again, I just would have hated that film. But it's in fact the total opposite. She lives like this happy dappy life. Like she channels all of this like trauma into a memoir, as you say, and just trying to live a normal life to escape the trauma of Michael Myers. You know, and even like mentioning like a daughter's death and stuff like that. Yeah, there are times where I think, well, even if it was like 4 years ago, surely you'd be a bit like, you know, on the ropes still. You know, it is your daughter who's just been savagely killed.
Yeah.
But I quite like it. I do quite like it. I think there's times where it doesn't really work as well as it wants to, but again, that's down to personal interpretation of it. But yeah, I think I think I prefer her in this because in Kills, she's basically just Laurie from Halloween 2. She's just stuck in a hospital.
Which I actually didn't mind at the time because I didn't find that character very interesting. So focusing on the rest of Haddonfield, I thought was actually a pretty clever move, which is, I think, the exact opposite of what other people have said about the film. Because, I mean, let's face it, us saying, or at least even me saying it's the best Halloween film by far, that is heresy for a lot of people because
for some people it is absolute blasphemy. But yeah,
at the same time, I haven't been watching this franchise for years. Like the first time I watched the original was this time last year, and yeah, it's a good film. I don't love it nearly as much as you do. I've got my issues with it, but I can totally see why people really like it. That being said, I cannot see why this is still ongoing, and which is why I was actually quite happy to have the title as Halloween Ends. That's quite clever, even if it might not be the end. Because, as I said,
but at least it kind of cements the idea of the trilogy ends. Like they've kind of cemented that. Like I think it would be very, very stupid and foolish if somebody tried to make a sequel to that. That would be very, very foolish.
Well, let's get to that confrontation because, as I say, it doesn't happen until the very end of the film. Like the rest of the film, it's
last like 10, 15 minutes of the film.
Yeah, and it does initially introduce it as Laurie versus Corey, which she already clicked on that it was clearly Corey, not Michael, which I quite liked. So that's actually a good misdirect, because at least she gets her rectification because, yeah, she's seeing something in Corey's eyes that she saw in Michael's, and he's obviously not going to survive, even though his girlfriend Alison, also known as granddaughter of Laurie Strode, despite everything, is still like, oh, I'm in love with you after 2 minutes of patching your hand up. I was like, initially I thought there was already some history between the two of the way it was shot, but no, it's the first time they met, and then as soon as he gets out, she's like, oh, do you want to go on a date, or do you want us to show me your motorbike? And I was like, what?
You've known the guy 2 minutes. Yeah, that I didn't like that about the film. That's probably one of my biggest issues with the film, that relationship just feels so false. It is like,
quite interesting because, I mean,
I like you. I've known you for about 30 seconds, but do you want to go on a date? Mm-hmm. It's like, had on.
It's interesting listening to David Gordon Green in interviews talk about how he wanted the final film of the trilogy to focus on a love story, which I thought, I mean, frankly, after 13 films, you might as well try and do something different with this.
You have to change it up. Like, there's no, maybe changing up. You have to change it up.
But if I'm honest, it should have been Laurie, frankly, because she hasn't really had that beyond Halloween H2O. But that went sideways anyway. And they kind of do it here with, I forget his name. He's clearly someone really important who's been in the other films. I think he was in Halloween Kills. Oh yeah, because he was actually in the hospital bed next to her, wasn't he?
Frank.
I think. Frank, yeah. They try and hint at the idea of them being in a relationship. I'm like, oh, it's like an OAP relationship. That's really cute.
What is it like? Is it like the rose bushes or something like that?
The cherry blossoms.
That's it. The cherry blossoms. I thought, okay, I can kind of dig this, but it never does anything with it. Like, it is literally like the last few minutes of that film where something like happens. It's like, what about those cherry blossoms? Then it pretty much just ends. That's it. So it's left to audience assumption whether they get together or not. It's never really shown to us, which I think.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, going back to that confrontation. So yeah, it's initially set up with Corey, but Laurie kills him. Well, rather he kills himself and makes it look like it was her. I was like, ooh, spooky. Give it 2 minutes and then we'll realise that that's not actually the case. And then Michael rocks up, walking around without his mask for quite a while, as it turns out, because Corey had the strength to nick it. But also, I'm like, I probably would have cleaned that mask first because it's probably a little bit pungy. If I'm completely honest, if it's been hiding in a sewer for 4 years.
I mean,
it's going to smell rancid in there.
The absolute misfortune that mask has endured. The guy has been set on fire. The guy has had numerous amounts of blood from different people on it. It's going to smell kind of gamey.
Yeah, I like to think that if this was realistic, he would put the mask on, get out the sewer, and then die of miasma as if it's like the Black Death. It's like...
Halloween ends.
Corey ends.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not some unknown disease in that mask.
Yeah. But yeah, so the actual fight is 4 minutes. I think it's shorter than the fight between Batman
it's not
and
necessarily
Superman.
a hot take, but I just saw that confrontation was one of the most unsatisfying things I've ever watched in a Halloween film.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I say, I much prefer the confrontation in the 2018 one. For one, you've got 3 generations of Strauds against Michael Myers, which that's one of the few things I really like about that 2018 film. Again, you might keep on saying I really don't like that film. I think it's quite mid.
Yeah.
Because it's got some good ideas, but on the whole, it's just very generic. But I do like the idea of 3 of them against Michael. And it's kind of it's basically just like a really gory version of Home Alone. If Kevin McAllister was a woman and went completely batshit. It's like, right, Harry, Marv, you're actually going to die. There's going to be some capital punishment in this. Actually, it'll be like Home Alone 3. Have you actually seen Home Alone 3?
No. But do you know what it is?
Literally...
It is literally an R-rated Home Alone with the hint of the Saw films in it, but now I can just see Billy the Puppet with the Michael Myers mask on it, and then the 2 robbers burst. It's I want to play a game.
Well, here's the thing, because the first, I mean, not to go too much on topic, but the first booby trap in Home Alone 3 is honestly the electric chair. It's an actual electric chair.
Oh, well,
I was like, this kid is 10 years old. He's clearly been watching a lot of Jeffrey Dahmer things all of a sudden. Honestly.
Minds of
but anyway, yes.
And stuff. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, back to Halloween. This one, she's just kind of hiding for a few minutes and then hurling fire extinguishers and nearly getting her hand stuck in the sink slicer thing. I don't know what you call it.
It's I don't know what it is actually called, but basically it's a thing that just blends up food and stuff in the sink. So when you wash it, it's like a blender. It has a proper name, but it's what every traditional American household has, and it just blends all the stuff so it doesn't block your drain and stuff, which is really smart. But yeah,
because there were things that happened. I mean, I actually. There's parts of us that likes how brief it is, because quite frankly at this point both these characters are quite old. I'm not expecting a superhero showdown or anything.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, the 2018 one is far more satisfying, despite the fact that Michael is clearly not dead. Which, speaking of, now here's the thing. So I had my theories about what was going to happen with this. Mm-hmm. Initially I thought it's going to be Laurie that dies and Myers is going to be extremely close to death, because I'm very well aware, and I'm sure this will come up when we talk about the Halloween franchise on your podcast.
Yeah.
The whole clause in the Halloween rights with one of the producers that stipulates that Michael Myers is not allowed to actually die. It's a bit like with the Godzilla contract with Toho, when Roland Emmerich made the 1998 Godzilla, which is not good. He was told specifically Godzilla's not allowed to die at the end.
Yeah.
Which he does anyway, because he's Roland Emmerich, he can do whatever the hell he wants. But I thought, okay, so now I know that Myers isn't going to die. But not only is he stabbed a lot, and then his wrists and neck slit, and we almost see his face, which I quite liked. I honestly thought for a second that he is actually going to speak.
I think this might be... I know in Kills there was a lot of unmasking. I know the 2018 one, I think the closest one we got to that is where the shot of him pulling on the mask from the trunk after murdering the 2 podcasters. In Kills, obviously, there's a few. Oh God.
Us.
Yeah, the British part. Oh
Michael?
God, Michael. Yeah, I think Ends has a lot more. It's quite daring in some ways. It doesn't show you like all of his facial features, but they're it's quite clever. I must admit, despite thinking the film isn't too great, because like
Isn't there one of the...
it's the
Isn't
way
there
like
one
it
of the
shoots
sequels?
the face, like it keeps it
Yeah,
out
yeah.
of focus, but it shows you some part of his face at the same time. It's really clever.
Isn't there one of the films, one of the sequels, where originally the filmmakers were going to have him... I might have been in H2O. I feel like it's got to be H2O because I don't think there's any other instance. But he was only going to say one word, and it was going to be his nickname for Laurie when they were siblings together, and it was going to be her nickname, which was like Boo. I'm sure that's one of them. I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Do you know what it is? I think that was probably something in Resurrection, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seems more fitting for Resurrection with that really stupid scene where Laurie and Michael are hanging outside on
literally.
Like yeah, they're literally hanging. Yeah, it seems more fitting to that, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, so he's dealt a lot of damage, and then, as I say, like everything is slit, so there's blood everywhere. And to ensure, which actually I like how it's set up with how they're actually going to get him, they take his body, put him on the car, have him paraded through the streets of Haddonfield as if it's like a reverse... congratulations to the astronauts who did the moon landing.
Yeah, I know. It's like, congratulations. Everywhere. Congratulations, you killed the Haddonfield babysitter murders.
Yeah. And
Murderer.
then they hurl him into a bloody industrial sized shredder, and you see him just gone. Like he's like, in fact, actually, I was joking with it to my girlfriend last night. Now, you haven't seen it, and I've watched it a few times now. There's the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special on Disney+. There's a reason for this. Okay,
right,
there's a reason why I'm referencing this in a Halloween Ends video.
I'm liking where this is going. Yeah.
Because there's like multiverse stuff, Kylo Ren meets the Emperor during the events of Return of the Jedi, and he's revealing to the Emperor what's going to happen at the end of Return of the Jedi. And he's like, Vader's going to throw you down a reactor shaft. And he basically looks at the camera and says, and I quote, "And believe me, there's no walking back from that." And I was thinking, you've thrown him into a shredder, and I'm picturing someone doing that, and he's like, he's going to come back in the next one. He's like, oh no, the hand survived, and it morphed into a new Michael Myers.
Oh, don't give like studios ideas, because you know what it is? I thought exactly the same thing. Like, the guy has literally been shredded.
Halloween X.
Oh God, we've already had Jason X. We don't want Michael X. God, no.
Spice.
Yeah, I was thinking this, like, the guy is literally shredded into little bits of flesh and bone. And you know what it is? I could just picture like a finger survives or something like that, and like some cult, like, you know, like be like a curse of Michael Myers, even though it's not totally canon. I can just seeing like studios just adopting something as ridiculous as that again, where they like definitely put his hand in like sacred blood or something like that, and it just regrows a Michael Myers. That's how ridiculous I think it would become. So thankfully, I think Gordon Green's done a good job with ending this trilogy. And again, though I have a little nitpick with the title.
Obviously.
Specifically with the colour of it.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by that. I figured, you're just going to stick to the original font again, as you have for the previous ones. But no, you go for a weird, retro kind of thing.
The pumpkin stuff.
I really like that. That is really clever.
I love the pumpkin stuff, because, I mean, there's some fascinating trivia with the Kills version of it and the 2018 one.
Yeah.
The 2018 one, the pumpkin, David Gordon Green actually got a camera and he placed it in front of a pumpkin, and he basically just filmed this pumpkin rotting away very, very slowly. Yeah. In Kills, there's 14 pumpkins that are used, and with this one, the pumpkins like morph into each other, which I thought was absolutely amazing, but it would have been much better if the titles were exactly the same as they were for all the other Halloween films, with the orange Halloween-themed titles. Would have been so much better. I don't like the blue. I don't know why it was in blue. It just looks strange.
It was quite surprising, to be honest, but at the same time, I actually don't mind too much because, as I said, despite some of the issues this film has, I do appreciate the fact that it is really, really trying to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And while, yeah, it would feel more satisfying as a fan to have it with the classic font, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it doesn't take away from anything in the film. But I completely understand why one would be a bit iffy on that, because hell, even I wasn't. But I was like, oh, okay, we're doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, because when the titles came up, I thought, oh, okay, this is a bit different. I mean, not that like it totally irks me compared to some of the other issues in this film. Do you know what it is? I think my biggest issue is Alison.
Oh yeah, she is easily one of the stupidest characters I've seen in these films. Like, I swear to God.
Like, every moment from her meeting Corey and she just immediately falls in love with him, I absolutely detest it. The more I think about it, the more I absolutely hate it. It feels so forced. It feels so fake. Like, after all this trauma of losing your parents, and you don't look a day upset about it. You're just happy to swing off with another psychopath. God.
Yeah, I've actually got an idea for what they could have done if they wanted to stick with the whole thing of evil takes different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been better if it was, instead of Corey being the one that goes down the dark path, would it have been better if it was Alison?
See, I think that would have been absolutely terrific, and it would have been a cheeky little homage to Halloween 4, because they did that with Jamie Lloyd.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah,
they did
that with Jamie Lloyd right at the end of the film. That would have been very good. Probably
that actually, yeah.
It would have made more sense as well, because you think Alison as a character, she's lost both of her parents, she's watched her friends get killed, her ex-boyfriend got his neck snapped. And she has a really strained
relationship with Laurie. So I think that would have been the stronger version.
Whereas, even with Corey, I'm a bit picky with this. I don't know about you now. I think, yes, evil takes all kinds of forms as it's, put across in Laurie Strode's memoirs and personal thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But when a town scorns somebody for an accidental murder and he just decides to, go befriend Michael Myers, I think that's just a little too strange.
Yeah, I think it would have worked better with her, because at least she already has that connection with Myers after the events of the last two.
Because she's previously had encounters with Michael, and it would have just made a bit more sense, whereas this guy has no history of him whatsoever. He just stumbles across him in a sewer. And that's it.
Here's the thing. It's a bit like with the end of Star Wars, where it makes some really stupid decisions with certain characters. I'm acting as if it's like a spoiler. When in reality it should have gone in a different direction. I think it would have been a lot stronger. And, in that case, it would have been Rey going dark, because that would have made more sense for her character. And I think it would have worked here.
Do you know what I've just remembered? What it is? One of the reviews I read was Halloween Ends is basically Star Wars, is basically the Halloween version of Star Wars is The Rise of Skywalker.
I don't know if I go that far, because I really don't like that film. This one, I like it to a point, but it's not a good movie.
Oh, it's better than that film, but by God, it's not.
Yeah.
I still prefer Kills.
Yeah.
Look, the 2018 one is probably my favourite out of the trilogy, but as I've said, at the beginning of this podcast, I was pretty disappointed with it. I wasn't exactly going in with high expectations anyway, because, this is the 13th film. They're pretty dry on ideas of how to end this just once and for all, and whether it does end or not, probably not. John Carpenter himself has confirmed that Michael Myers will appear again. Not in this trilogy, because this trilogy is just ended. This is its own thing now. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are some things in it that I like. For one, Michael Myers looks like an absolute badass, despite him being near death.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think he looks better in the trailers than he does in the final film.
Oh, yes. I think...
because I really like the evolution of the mask, where it goes from, the slightly older one in 2018 to the half-burnt one in Kills, and the sort of, the cobweb kind of...
See, I thought it was cobwebs, it's actually mould.
Oh...
Yeah,
that's even...
Yeah. I mean,
so we really should have died from bloody miasma years ago.
Yeah,
especially if he's feeding on rats.
Like, you know, the guy survives a fire and stuff like this. Like, surely his respiratory system it's pretty fecked, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably about as strong as one of the indigenous people on North Sentinel Island, where you bring them in into like modern society and they're dead within minutes because they're not used to like the common cold or something.
And then after the Myers house gets demolished, which we don't see, like it's just sort of confirmed that the Myers house is destroyed. We don't see
the narration is actually pretty expository, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of works in universe because it's the memoir, but at the same time, I actually think that actually should have been the opening of the film. If we were doing it, the idea that we put up with the idea of being Alison instead of Corey, forget that opening scene. As good as it is, and open with a shot of the Myers house, much like with the original, and it just gets demolished.
Yeah,
and that just sets the tone immediately. People are trying really, really hard to move on.
Yeah, because even this is like put across that like people can't forget him, but if you demolish the house, then maybe that's a start.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
the thing is, you could still have Corey, but not have him do all that. So he could just be a genuinely nice guy. Imagine that.
But you know what it is? I'm kind of questioning like, how did he like get the strength to just take on Michael Myers? Like, I know Michael Myers, as I've said in my theory, that like, you know, he's weakened from literally being like beaten, stabbed, God knows what else done to him.
Back in my day.
And you know, he's wearing
part of a cult,
wearing a mold infested mask that's probably seeped into his skin.
Fucking awful.
You know, again, if that isn't supernatural or what, you know, the guy is wearing a mold-infested mask and just is able to walk around.
Yeah.
But the narration thing, some of it I like because the memoir stuff, I think it's good for that. But, you know, I'd rather just see what you've suggested where the Myers house is destroyed, and that just immediately sets the tone for the film. That is it. Everyone is trying to forget the horror of Michael Myers. It's not just Laurie, it's everybody.
Do you know what it is? I haven't done screenwriting for quite a while. I might actually be tempted to try and do that as a challenge for myself, is to try and, because there is a good amount of stuff in this film that I would still keep.
Oh yeah.
But shifting certain characters would change it up entirely. And I think I would quite like to challenge myself to do that and shift it so that, yeah, you still have the main antagonist, which is still Michael Myers, but having someone far closer to Laurie as the one who goes dark, I think actually would have worked a lot better. I think works better for a character, because otherwise she's just kind of just walking around until Michael shows up at the end, realistically.
I don't think we've actually mentioned like Michael's kills in this film compared to the others as well. I think it's a lot less creative, some of the kills.
Yeah, I mean, it's because without spoiling my thoughts on one of the other Halloween films, which I'll address in a bit, this doesn't go for all-out gore, which I like. I prefer
it's
that.
Quite
I like it being a little bit more subtle, but at the same time, it's
tamed
nowhere
down,
near as creative.
It's tamed down quite significantly.
Well, yeah, because one of the opening scenes in Kills, when he gets out of the house and there's all the firefighters,
just murders a bunch of dudes.
It's a terrific scene. Like, it's a great scene.
I don't care how many people slate that film. That scene where he's standing on the porch as the house burns down and he just murders a bunch of firefighters, impales one and hoists them in the air.
But you want to know what the issue is? If you think about it, Michael kills 2 people.
Yeah.
Corey kills more. So I was just about to use the example of the radio guy. That's actually Corey.
Yeah.
I was going to say the generic, stereotypical high school American jock bullies. That's also Corey. All the slightly more interesting kills is him, not Michael. Further proven that Michael is just not in this film. Like, the only one he does is the cop, and the nurse who's having an affair with the doctor who's just given her a promotion. That's
Did you notice the little homage to the first film there, where obviously so this is the bit with the nurse when Corey and Michael attack the doctor and the nurse. Obviously Corey kills the doctor, Michael kills the nurse, but Michael kills the nurse in the same way that he kills Bob in the 1978 film, where he impales him to the wall.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, it's
I
exactly
can't actually.
the same.
And here's the thing. I mean, I own the original film, and as I say, I've seen it. I haven't seen it since last year. It's not a film I feel like. I mean, I'd probably try and rewatch it again at some point. I'd be curious as to how it works. As I say, I've got my issues with that one, but there's a lot of that one I can't actually remember a lot of, which again might be heresy at this point. I don't know. But is that everything? I think we've covered everything we were. Or is there anything else
I will
I've missed?
mention, like, I don't hate the idea of Michael having this, like, evil little sidekick. I just kind of hate the fact that it was done the way it was done. I just hate the fact that he just happens to have stumbled upon him and it's like, oh, I'm going to befriend you because nobody likes me. And yeah, I kind of see that, like, he meets Michael and, you know, Michael is seen as, like, the ultimate evil of Haddonfield, so Corey becomes the next ultimate evil by trying to become Michael, as is shown, like, just before the main confrontation between Michael and Laurie, where he literally enters the house dressed as Michael Myers, mask and everything.
Yeah.
I just find it's really strange.
Yeah, it's a very weird decision, especially for a film like this, which is trying to cap off this series in some regard, by introducing a lot of new stuff that just didn't need to be done. And as I say, that had an opportunity to do something similar with Evil Takes Different Forms. Even those closest to you, it should have been Alison, because otherwise she has absolutely nothing to do in this film.
And she pretty much doesn't. She just falls in love with a psychopath and then towards the end of the film realises her errors, and it's pretty naff, really. Like, it just would have been so much better because she's in those two films, she's an interesting character because of the trauma she faces. Her dad gets killed in the 2018 one. She loses her mother in Kills. She doesn't have a solid relationship with her grandma. She loses her boyfriend and her friends in Kills. Like, she is by far the best character to work with to make her go down that dark path. Whereas a character who's introducing, this brand new character introduced in Ends, yes, you can see why he goes down the dark path, but, you know, someone like Alison who faces up. Yeah, you don't. Like, it's happened. You really don't care. It's happened. I'd care more for Alison because she's faced off against Michael Myers, and she does. If she did the total opposite of Laurie Strode, she doesn't come a survivor. She just becomes evil. She just goes down that dark path. It just would have made a bit more sense, which is what we both agree. It just would have been so much better.
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, as I said, I mean, now I'm talking about it more. It is, even by my standards, a bit of a disappointing one. And again, I've seen a lot of crap films in this franchise. So will you stop laughing as gleefully as that? My goodness, you sound like Liz Truss.
Oh God! Oh, well, now I'm just going to deliberately stab myself.
Now. But yes, I think that's our final thoughts on. Well, it's not really going to be our final thoughts. We'll be talking about this franchise again very, very soon on Dan's podcast, Graveyard Chit Chat. But my God, after we finish that one, I don't think I'm talking about Halloween ever
You're
again.
never ever going to just mention the word Halloween ever again. If someone mentions the word Halloween, like, we're going to have to do like the Doctor and Donna Noble. I'm just going to have to like erase your mind. And if you remember the word,
frankly. Actually, no.
If you remember the word Halloween, your mind will burn.
Here's the thing, don't do that, because I swear to God, because then you will find a way to manipulate me to watch them all again. Because you're the type of person that would do that. Because, you know, I'm making you sit through a few seasons of crappy episodes of Doctor Who. It only seems fair you're subjecting me to crappy, bloody Halloween films that should have ended a long time ago, if I'm honest.
I think we've pretty much wrapped up Ends, but, you know, nice little slide into this. I want you to go first because I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, so you want me to do my playlist first?
Yep. So okay. For clarification, as Regan's mentioned, he's now watched all the Halloween films. However, he might just have one of the most... This isn't even a hot take. This is an inferno take, this.
You didn't like Heaven Sent, so fuck off.
Yeah, that's my inferno take. Regan's inferno take.
Ooh. Well, that'll be in the middle of my playlist, so we'll kick things off. Because I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to make you wait.
Oh, you tease.
Oh, yeah. You know me so well. Let's kick things off with the 1941 film The Wolfman, starring one
Oh,
Lon Chaney,
John Laney.
as Larry. His name is Larry.
The most
I could not
generic
take
name
that
ever.
seriously.
The most
I couldn't
generic
take it
name
seriously.
ever. Larry.
Yeah, so this is part of the Universal Monster franchise. I'm, of course, trying to get through the bulk of the main ones before we discuss those films in a couple of weeks. I think it's about 2 weeks, actually. It's 2 weeks till Halloween. I think it is, something like that.
For clarification, is the Invisible Man part of the Universal thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
I thought so.
Spoilers, that film's actually better. This film's alright, to be honest. It's okay. It's 69 minutes long. It's incredibly short.
Yeah, I think it might be one of the shortest Universal monster films ever, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts on it are.
Well, I'll be addressing another werewolf film a little bit later. Mm-hmm. That is, surprisingly enough, kind of connected to this. Surprisingly enough. Probably because it's got the same title.
What, Cheney Lon?
Yeah. Much like with a lot of these films, I feel like my opinions on this is pretty similar to the Bela Lugosi Dracula from 10 years prior, where it's like, I have so much respect for this film, and I can completely see why it's not just like an iconic film, it's an importance film. Like, we wouldn't be where we are without this film. Of course, we'd had werewolf films prior. There was, like, Werewolf of London and stuff like that just a few years prior. But realistically, it was this. And one of the rare times that it was in, like, the mainstream. Because let's face it, werewolf stuff is usually relegated to B-movie stuff at this point.
Yeah.
Beyond something like Dog Soldiers. Which, if I'm honest, after rewatching that, earlier on and watching it... over like the October period, it might be my favourite film ever, frankly. It's getting very, very close. Which is, I'm sorry, Return of the Jedi, I love you, and The Lion King, but
I love
my
you.
God, yeah, I do, but Dog Soldiers is something else entirely. But honestly, I completely respect it. At the same time, despite being 69 minutes long, it feels a lot longer than it is, and no offense, Larry.
It's just such a generic name for a character, isn't it? Like, I remember the first time watching it. I just don't
like the name Larry.
And then, like, the credits and stuff, it was like, Larry. I was like, there is no way you have named, like, the protagonist of this film Larry. Like,
off the top of my head, there is only one cinematic Larry I like, and that is from Night in the Museum with Ben Stiller as Larry Daly.
There's also Larry from Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser.
Oh, God, yeah, it is.
See?
Yeah. Okay.
You're horror fanatic, of course, knows.
Yeah. Well, we still haven't seen the new one yet. Anyway, so yeah, I do like it. I think it's okay.
So on a scale of like 1 to 5, what have you rated it out of?
I've got it as 3.
Okay.
It's probably about as much as I was expecting. I didn't think it was going to be a bad film by any means. I like how people say, "Oh, Larry Talbot is like a really relatable character." It's like, no, he's just someone who doesn't understand the concept of no, which by today's standards isn't great. It's like, just like, will you go out for dinner with me? No. It's like, okay, I'll come and get you a date. It's like, no, I won't. It's like, okay, I'll be here with you. Like, no, you won't.
Yeah, he just agrees to like everything.
No. I was like, all right, Harvey.
Can I put a curse on you? Oh, if you must. He's like, no. If you must.
All right then.
All right then.
Continuing on with werewolves, there's a couple of werewolves this week. Rewatch of what is for many the best werewolf film ever made, An American Werewolf in London. This time courtesy of Arrow Video. Thanks to them. Bit of a weird thing though, because I haven't rewatched this thing since last year. And the audio was really weird. Will you stop doing weird faces? I swear to God.
Oh, I'm just so like happy.
Well, yeah, I absolutely love the film. It's one of those ones where like I actually watched the sequel of this more than this one did, mostly because I couldn't figure out if it was supposed to be a comedy or a horror film. because it's not a horror film until the final
Do you know
10
what it is?
minutes.
Like, I keep forgetting there's a sequel to that, and that is, of course, An American Werewolf in Paris, or as I call it, An American Werewolf set in absolute poop.
I will probably watch that again this month because I do have some interesting thoughts on that one. It's not a good movie. I will stress that immediately.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting in a way that I don't think people really.
I'm still yet to watch it, and I'm curious about it. I know it's not going to be good. Like, by God, I know it's not good.
But yeah, American Werewolf in London is still an impeccable film. And
you know what it is? That transformation that David has.
Oh, it's still probably.
I think it's probably
it's
like
the best one.
Yeah, I'd probably just go and say it's like the best werewolf transformation ever.
Oh, definitely, and it always will be. There's no way you could do it any better, frankly. I don't think. But yeah, there was that one. Here's an interesting thing, actually. I actually ended my Shudder subscription last week. Mostly because I just stopped using it. So I've actually got until the 20. It's either the 20th or the 26th. I've got before then. So I might subscribe again. So I caught a new film called Deadstream. I don't know if you've seen that one advertised.
Yes, this is on my watch list. It's in my list on Shudder as well.
So it's a found footage film with a live streamer who had a bit of bad luck. He's losing a lot of followers, so in order to try and up his game and get some fans again, he decides to spend a night in a really, really famous haunted house, or at least really famous that no one knows about, which I like as a thing. So the way it's done with found footage is that he's got a load of GoPros, because he's like a live stream, he's got coverage everywhere, so he plugs them into every single room, and he's got a feed on his not iPad, even though it's an iPad, of every single room. And this is so fun. It's such a fun horror film. I mean, look, at points, it's quite clear it's micro budget. Like, some of the costumes on some of the characters is a bit iffy, if I'm honest. But I can't deny I was having fun. Despite the fact that the lead character is basically an arsehole. Like, I shouldn't feel anything for him. Because he's made some really, really poor decisions and he's a bit of a dick. But my God, it's really entertaining, and especially for like a subgenre like found footage, which is so overdone at this point. It's very difficult to come up with anything interesting, like beyond.
Do you know what it is? I think with found footage, it's the case of like, I think of it as like a little statistic. For me, it's like every like 3 out of 5 found footage films, there's only 2 that I really like think are just super like interesting.
Yeah, we will definitely be talking about.
Very, very, very keen on watching, which I think you've really liked as well, is a film called Lake Mungo.
That is, in fact, well, there's definitely a little bit of. No, it's not found footage.
It's not entirely found footage, right? Yeah.
No, there's a little bit because there's like phone footage and stuff.
That's the bit I'm thinking of.
It's not strictly a found footage film.
Yeah.
We will be talking about what I actually consider to be the best found footage film ever. At some point next year, that will be Cloverfield, which I think I love Cloverfield.
Cloverfield
so
is a good bloody film. There's also another one called Wreck as well, which is just like short for recorder.
Yes, actually, yeah, I quite enjoyed Wreck. There's also M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, which I think worked well as a found footage. It's a very, very low budget one as ever because it's M. Night Shyamalan. But no, Deadstream is the best found footage film I've seen in quite a number of years, to be honest. Right. It's far better than it's got any right to be, frankly. Especially because the reason I stopped with Shudder was just because there wasn't really anything on there that was very interesting. I will probably watch Night of the Demons at some point just because I hate myself. And I've seen the sequel. For some reason, I watched the sequel first, and I was like,
you say that, right? But after seeing Night of the Demons, you're just automatically compelled to just watch Demons by Dario Argento. Or however you say his name, because that is just an absolute walloping film. It's so bloody good.
Now, next two, I'll bundle them both together, because much like with the first one I watched, it took a number of attempts. I think you know what this bit is. Doctor Who, Series 11, Episode 2, The Ghost Monument. It's actually a cracking title. And Episode 3, Rosa. I know you haven't got a Series 11 yet. I feel like you're going to wait until we're closer to the point that we're actually talking about it before you do.
That just sums it up. That just sums it up.
I've not got much to say beyond writing is still a bit poor 4 years on. It's still a bit crap. And to think, actually, when we're actually talking about this, it's actually 8 days until Jodie Whittaker is scheduled to explode. Which, by the way, I'm very much looking forward to. Not like watching the actress explode, but just the character explode. I'm not that much of a cruel person. That just does mean that once again, like this episode, we're going to be recording it a little bit earlier because I'm not missing that. Yeah, anyway, let's talk about 2009's Halloween 2.
So this is obviously directed by Rob Zombie, just for clarification.
Zob Zombie. Oh.
Okay. I can't even... I'm going to get a little drink of whiskey here, just ready for this.
It's annoying. I've actually finished.
You can hear the top coming off, so the audience doesn't know. Well, the audience now knows that I'm actually telling the truth. I'm not just making it up.
No, I was actually drinking apple juice again.
Of course.
No. He is actually drinking whiskey. I've seen it, and he's a bloody nutcase. So Dan already knows that I actually rated this one lower than Halloween Resurrection,
which is just a hot take in itself.
Well, because here's the thing, because at least with Halloween Resurrection, it is unbelievably stupid. But my God, is it? It's a bit like with Batman and Robin, which is also a completely absurd film, but my God, is it entertaining as hell. Halloween Resurrection is actually quite fun, because you're watching it and you're thinking, someone made this. Someone said, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to have this and that.
Do you want to know
have Michael Myers
fact?
In for no reason.
The guy who directed Halloween 2 from 1981 is the same director who directed
Yes, it
Halloween
was.
Resurrection, which is Rick
He must have been on at least 6 unlawful substances while making that film. There's no way that anyone is completely sober and completely clean is like, yeah, it's fine. I'll do it like that. That's absolutely fine. Whereas Halloween 2, the second Halloween 2, which I now have to say, unlike Halloween Kills, which is the third Halloween 2, is needlessly gory. Like, it's so unbelievably violent.
Yeah.
And like literally I got 20 minutes in and I was like, this isn't even fun. It's just frankly disgusting. It's also got stupid hallucinations, and like Laurie's like, I'm turning into Michael Myers. I'm like, oh, for the love of
Do you know what it
Christ.
is? We can both mutually agree on that. I really dislike the dream sequences, is what I call them. I just think they're absolutely pointless. They're just in there for no reason whatsoever.
I already had enough of those with the bloody Jamie thing in the weird cult trilogy thing. It's probably got a name. I'm
Thorn trilogy.
Figure out its name. Yeah, whatever. But no, I thought this thing was just completely crap, and is easily the worst Halloween film.
I want to know, because obviously it took you like 2 days to watch Halloween Resurrection. How many days did it take you to watch Halloween 2?
How long is it?
Halloween 2. Ooh. I have
probably about 100 minutes.
Yeah, as a guess, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it took me 100 minutes. I just watched it all.
You watched it?
I didn't even wait. I was like, wow. You know what? I'm actually like I'm hating this. So screw it. I'm just gonna sit through. I'm knackered. You're just gonna
tired, grit and bear it.
But
wow,
screw it.
Bloody hell! God,
that's like the best thing I can say. Like, yeah, I watched the entire thing in one go.
Yeah,
pointless. Waste of my oxygen. Should have given the oxygen to somebody else who really needed it.
My opinion on it has definitely changed, and I'll be rewatching most of these ready for our episode on Graveyard Chit Chat. But by God, that film just has some things that just irk me, like ridiculously.
I don't mind the design of Michael Myers. Like, the mask isn't as good as in the previous one. Like, that one I like certain aspects of the first one. I like certain aspects of it,
yeah. This one,
I just hated it.
No,
absolutely hated it. I'm really glad I didn't rent it. Which, in fairness, I rented Resurrection and the first Rob Zombie film. But in my defense, one of the Google apps I've got, you can do surveys and you get like Google Play credits.
Oh yeah.
So instead of just spending actual money, I just spend that.
That's a genius play, to be honest. That's a genius play.
I'm cheeky like that. Then there's the finale for She-Hulk Attorney at Law, which, as you can tell, we are not doing a dedicated video on.
No.
No. This gets more meta than any of the Deadpools, and I hate it. Do you know why I hate it?
Why do you hate it?
Because you have seen this episode, haven't you?
Oh yes, I've seen the most recent episode. Yeah.
So we'll do a little bit of spoilers. So the finale is set up like the most generic, like MCU finale to anything ever, and then she shifts to the Disney Plus homepage, which at first I thought, oh, it's crashed. But no, it's actually still the episode. And then she goes into the behind the scenes and then talks to the writer about how we don't need to do this, we can do something else. That's not very clever, because I can guarantee that still just going to be the finale to anything MCU related for the foreseeable future anyway, so it's not nearly as clever as I think it's trying to be. I did like the way they do the Kevin Feige, where he's just a robot.
Oh, I found that hilarious. The robot.
But still, the funniest thing is Hulk's son's haircut.
The funniest thing was just the announcement of Hulk's son, to be honest. I was just like...
Yeah, I was like, was it Bruce that's someone, or was it the Hulk?
Yeah, I've just... after seeing that, right, and I mean, this is literally just before the episode ends, right?
Yeah, just before.
Who did Hulk smash? Like, it is a serious question. It is literally a what if. It's just who did Hulk smash? Like,
well, initially I assumed it was Valkyrie.
Is he adopted?
Oh, well,
was he grown?
What, like Alien Resurrection? His son is actually actually I actually looked at the production notes, and the person that plays Hulk's son is actually Sigourney Weaver. It isn't, if only.
Oh my god! Oh please, we can't subject Sigourney Weaver to any more weird creatures.
I mean, it's pretty.
She's a hybrid xenomorph in a film, for feck's sake. We don't need anything else other than that.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on from She-Hulk, because it was pretty poor, frankly. Random episode of Top Gear. Here's the thing, I'm pretty certain that you've said before, you never watched it, did you?
I've never ever got into Top Gear. I've just never ever got into it. I've never been able to. I just don't have interest in it, being honest.
Fair enough. No, that's absolutely fine, you heretic. No, it's fine. Okay, so I'll just briefly address it. This one was the one whether it's the Silverstone racetrack and they do a 24-hour endurance race in a diesel car. It's like the rare time they actually do something really, really serious. Mm-hmm. It's actually really good. It's quite old. Well, then again, even the most recent episode that I count as canon, technically, is from 2015. So I still hate the fact that when they cancelled that version of the show, if you had a look on Wikipedia, it actually told you who was going to be the celebrity guest for the next few episodes after that. One of them was Gary Lineker, who did Match of the Day. The other one was Henry Cavill.
No.
We were this close to having Superman on Top Gear. I was like, BBC, fuck you. Fuck you, BBC.
No way. Oh my god.
Oh, I would have loved that, because we already know he's a nerd for like video game stuff. I want to know if he's like a major nerd for cars, frankly. And the final one, because I won't class Halloween Ends, surprisingly not, because we have already spoken about it, is the 2010 version of The Wolfman.
This is the one with Anthony Hopkins in, isn't it?
Anthony Hopkins, Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, and Hugo Weaving, aka Megatron. No, Agent Smith, but I know him best as Megatron.
Mega Wolfman.
Sorry, Hugo. This one was interesting to revisit, because I'm not sure how much you know about the production troubles with this film. I will address this film more in a couple of weeks, because we'll be talking about the Universal Monster stuff.
Yep.
Have you actually seen this one?
Yeah, I have. It's in need of a rewatch, but Yeah, I don't know too much about the production issues of it, but I know that it has had problems.
Oh yeah, it did. But yeah, I'll address them when we talk about it more in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay, okay.
This is the other hot take for me this week. Despite this one having a lot of issues, frankly, I do actually kind of prefer it to the original, which again is heresy to the utmost. I do find myself rewatching this one more than I would the original, quite frankly. I think visually it's absolutely stunning. Like, it's proper gothic horror, unlike the original, which is just weird, frankly. I think setting it in Victorian England is perfect. I think production design is impeccable. Danny Elfman's score is good when it's not just repeating the same bits over and over again. And I actually quite like Benicio del Toro, who is already pretty hairy before he becomes the Wolfman. Which, by the way, the makeup on that is amazing, and I did not respect it nearly as much as I did when I first watched it when I was way too young, frankly. I think I was like 12, maybe 13. And I was like...
I mean, it's like a PG...
No, it's not.
Is it 15?
No, it's like a...
Is it actually 18?
It's a 15, at least.
Is it 15? Oh,
it's gory.
Right.
It's very, very gory. It's very, very bloody.
Yeah, I remember a lot of blood and stuff and that. I just wasn't quite sure on the rating of it.
That being said, I do think the reason it's a 15 is because it features a CGI version of Anthony Hopkins, which frankly should not be put to camera again, because it looks terrible. He's also really hairy at one point. Yeah, I'll talk more about the film, and I do have a fairly lengthy review that I wrote for it on my Letterboxd, link in the description below. Shameless Letterboxd plug-in I haven't done for a very, very long time, because I don't review things nearly as much as I used to do. I've got a lot to catch up on. But yes, that's it. I've not watched a lot this week. So let's... Okay, Dan. I already know a little bit, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. But otherwise,
okay,
the webcam is yours.
Okay, so this number for this week is 32.
Oh, you absolute hag.
Oh, the insults just get more creative. Shall I just do this in order? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why the hell not?
First time watch of The Omen from 1976.
Oh.
You know what it is? I kind of wish I saw this film a very long time ago. I don't think it's as good as people put it out to be. It's still a good film. It's a good film.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little bit overhyped when it comes to some people. Like it's like, it's like the best, like, you know, demon Antichrist thing ever. I'm like, well, is it though?
I mean, there's 3 of them, so, you know.
Yeah, there is a trilogy. One starring... Well, is Sam Neill in the second one or the third one?
I think he's in all 3, to be honest, I think.
Oh, God. Poor guy.
I mean, look, I haven't seen them. I just know that, like, some of them are... At least some of them are on Disney+, and I'm fairly certain his face is
all on Disney+.
Great.
Yeah, they're all on Disney+. That's how I watched the first one, because I was like, well... I'm going to see if... I remember Disney Plus having, like, a horror thing, so I went in it and I saw The Omen. I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch that then. Ooh, dear.
Oh.
The first time watch of a film called Mandy, right? No filter on this one.
This is on my watch list.
No filter on this whatsoever, right? I honestly felt like I was on fucking acid.
Good or bad, though?
Bad.
Really?
Yeah, I think this film is just so... It doesn't know what it wants to be. Like, it's just a gore fest with just loads of psychedelic visuals on it, and I was just lost. Like, I don't know what it wants to be. Like, I couldn't tell you a damn thing that happens in this film, Regan, in all honesty.
Seems fair.
I've rated it 3, but now that I think about... I've been thinking about this film, like, for a couple of days, and honestly, it's gonna go down. Because I just...
By how much?
It's just not... I think for some people, if you like that kind of thing, like, it's very much like Colour from Outer Space, where it's very psychedelic, though I think Colour Outer Space is quite tame with the visual. This is just all out. This is just an absolute trip. Like, by God. Like, I was literally, like, wondering if, like, I had some food that my mother had, like, put some, like, psychedelic drugs in it or something like that. But it turns out it was just Mandy.
And you tell me that she actually didn't. My goodness.
No, the audacity. Can't even have a
How
trip.
man? Dan's mother.
Yeah, it's just very strange. It's just... I don't think I'd watch it again, put it that way. It's just too confusing.
Yeah.
Next up is the latest episode of The Walking Dead, which is episode 18 of season 17. We're getting close to the end.
Season 17?
Oh yeah, there's 17 feckin' seasons of this thing, man.
No, there's not.
Oh, there is.
Is it not like 12?
No, 17.
What the fuck? How did they get 17 seasons out of it? Oh no, zombies, let's go over here.
Well, I'm gonna actually check it because I'm starting to wonder. Season.
I was gonna say, I'm sure there's not 17.
Either that or I don't know whether
12.
Season.
Ah.
It's season 10. Where the hell have I got 17 from?
Jesus.
I was gonna say, yeah, so it's season 10, my mistake. I was gonna say season 17. What the fuck? It's Mandy, man. Like, it's talking about Mandy. It's all this trippiness again, man.
I was like, there's no way there's more seasons of The Walking Dead than there is of Supernatural, which, by the way, it's 15, and even that's a stretch.
Yeah, so it's 10 seasons, so this is obviously the final season before they're going into, like, spin-offs and stuff like this.
Thank fuck.
I'm just determined to complete this because I just want to stop looking at it. Aliens, Colonial Marines, again.
No, Dan.
I'm just, honestly, Regan, I'm just tanking through the campaign so I never have to play this smut ever again.
You don't have to play it, you know.
But I do because I'm compelled to. My OCD demands it. Ugh. But it's fine because I played a much better game after getting very bored with it. I played Skyrim again. Yeah. I'm not actually doing the vanilla of this game. I'm actually playing with mods because it's just so much better. Makes the game so much better. It's much more immersive. It fixes the little things.
Do you have one of the mods, and at least one of the mods that I know, where it turns the dragons into Thomas the Tank Engine?
No, but...
And it's beautiful to behold. Like, oh no, pistons and timbers, Thomas.
There are these creatures called mud crabs, and they're essentially just giant crabs. You can put the Mr. Krabs lab, like Mr. Krabs laugh from SpongeBob, over their audio segment. It just sounds absolutely hilarious when they come at you. It's just all you hear is
Great.
There's also one that replaces their skin with Zoidberg, and every time you go near them, all you hear is it's all you hear, man. It's just beautiful. 10 episodes of The Simpsons Treehouse Horror.
Oh, Jesus fuck.
I've loved these since I was a kid. I've loved these since I was a kid, and I basically just watched from like 1 to 10, even though I've seen these like a million times. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from a very sore throat.
Oh, you poor thing.
Yep. Oh, now we get to Doctor Who, Series 10, Episode 4, The Landlord.
Knock, knock.
Well, yeah.
No, it's knock, knock, you little cheat.
Yeah, I don't know where I got The Landlord from either. I'm just very confused. Again, I'm blaming Mandy on this, man. It's just infused this psychedelic trip into my brain. So that was Knock Knock, Episode 5, Oxygen, which is very, very creepy. God.
Yeah, a little bit.
And Series 10, Episode 6, Extremis.
Totally not the one from Iron Man 3, but it's fine.
Oh, no, totally not. And you know what it is? It's still better than Series 9. I haven't disliked a single episode so far.
Oh, just give it another episode or two.
Okay, I'm going to take your word on that. We go back to Shudder's 101 Scariest Horror Movie Moments of All Time, Episode 5. Still no Halloween.
Okay, so what number are we actually at now?
I don't even know, man.
Well, because here's the thing. If you're going to be as like, obviously you're a fan of the franchise, but seriously, what is the scariest bit in the original Halloween that you think would make it into, the top 50 or top 100 or something?
I think it would honestly be the scene with where Laurie goes out into the corridor and you just see Michael Myers' face emerge in the dark room. That would be it for me. I think that is a feckin' terrific scene. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do it because they're starting to get into stuff that is generally like really quite what a horror fan would say is scary, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's getting really good, and I hope they do another season of this, even though like it'll just be like 202 scariest horror movie moments of all time. But after that was episode 6 of 101 Scariest Horror Movie Moments of All Time. Getting pretty high up now. Getting pretty high up. I couldn't really say which ones because I've kind of just had this on in the background and just sort of looked every now and then.
I'm curious though, has Psycho popped up yet?
I believe so, yes. And obviously it's
So,
that infamous scene.
I'm assuming the shower scene is in it then.
Yeah.
Ah, that's annoying. I actually would have put
I'm
that.
pretty
I
sure
would have put that a lot higher than probably.
Pretty sure it's in there, and it's pretty high up. Like it's in like I can't even remember which number I'm on. I'm gonna have to double check, but it's pretty damn high up. I think like next couple of episodes we're gonna be like done with this season.
Yeah.
Next up we have the completion. I finally completed it. Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, starring one Evan Peters or Peven
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just did like a marathon of like the last 5 episodes. It's good, but by God, is it a slog? Yikes.
I'm not particularly. I mean, I know the Jeffrey Dahmer tapes is on Netflix now. I'm honestly probably
to
more
be honest,
compelled to watch that one.
I'd probably just stick with that, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
because at least with those ones, it's manageable. Like, whereas this, like, you really do have to take a break from it, otherwise you end up bored stiffless. Because it is a lot. It is long.
Stranger Things 4.
Don't even mention finger strangs.
Finger strangs.
Yeah, finger strangs. Has no one ever done that? Finger strangs.
No, you.
Well, it's like the upside down, the downside up.
The downside.
Me.
No, Dan. I mean, yeah, but no.
Downside. A rewatch of probably like one of the greatest Halloween films of all time, Trick or Treat.
Yes, I like Trick or Treat a lot.
Oh, it's beautiful. I want to dress up as Sam.
There's actually in one of the game shops near where we live. There's actually I think it's from Necker. There's a little like
there's a little figure
of Sam. I'd be really tempted to get it, to be honest. I mean, they are quite costly though. But you do get all 3 head sculpts. I mean, you've got like the sack one, you've got the pumpkin, and then I think there's a third one actually.
Yeah, you get like. They're expensive, but they're so worth it. And as a man who has a few of those figures, they are pretty pricey, but you get a lot with
Halloween.
Them. Mostly Halloween. Mostly.
There you go.
I think there's a Hellraiser one as well. Of course.
Yeah.
Next up is Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I kind of just stuck with the story in this time around. Just getting through and just being dicked over. Specifically involving a storm. I went to go take a fort over, and of course 2 whirlwind storms just decided to show up and just screw me over every like chance that I got, essentially. And I'm not going to do like the ins and outs of this, Regan. I think I'm just going to kind of do the story and pretty much just move on to another Assassin's Creed game, I think, because I kind of want to start Syndicate. Next up, we have probably my like most mixed entry to this like game segment. It's Dead Rising 4.
No, I've never played any of them. I didn't know there was 4 of them.
I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure the Dead Rising thing just exists for just killing zombies with just insanely stupid weapons.
Uh-huh.
The stories, I've never liked any of the stories in these games. I just think they're all pretty generic. In 4, it just happens to be like the most generic one of them all. It's a lot better because in the first 3 games, Regan, you have like a time limit to complete like missions and stuff like this, or like to complete the game. So like I think in 2, you know, there's the threat of like getting nuked, and you have to like do like a number of missions in like 11 hours in the game. And obviously, if you like laze around, it punishes you by just making you not complete the game, anything like this. In 4, there is none of that. It's basically just go out and do whatever the hell you want. There's no time limit on it. You just take your time with it. It's a lot more open world. But, you know, just because it's all open world and stuff doesn't exactly make it, like, terrific. And its story it's pretty naff, to be honest. It's pretty naff. Again, just gonna kind of go through it, and that'll be it. Much like with Aliens, Colonial Marines, just not really interested in doing like 100% of the game. Oh, and now we go to She-Hulk, the latest episode. Oh, do you know what it is like? Breaking walls of just the 8th dimension here.
16 walls.
16 walls. Like, I honestly thought, like, my Disney Plus was just acting weird when, like, the thing just froze, and I was like, it's actually part of the episode. And yeah, after that, my mind just went into, like there were cogs in my brain that were just, like, going into overdrive, just trying to think what the hell was going on.
They're gone now.
Oh, yeah, they've just disintegrated.
They've rusted away.
Yeah, they have. If the psychedelic stuff hasn't taken them away, then this She-Hulk episode certainly has.
Yeah.
By God, yeah, it's just alright.
Yeah.
It's enough said.
Worse.
And lastly is a Rob Zombie film, The Devil's Rejects, arguably his best film. Yep. Along with House of Corpses, everything else is just kind of hit and miss. Personally, I think Devil's Rejects is probably the best one.
Misses like Halloween 2, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's definitely better than Halloween 2, that's for certain. 100% on that. It's basically just a Western horror with a load of cursing and blood. That's basically the extent of Rob Zombie's filmmaking. Just white trash, hillbilly, murder, cursing, death and sex. That's basically it.
The best kind, then. Clearly.
Yes, but that is everything for this week.
Everything?
Yeah, well, technically it's 31, but obviously because we've mentioned Halloween Ends, I won't mention that again, so...
No, I probably wouldn't do another review of it. We're already going to be talking enough about it next time.
I know.
Anyway.
I know.
Just not on this. But yeah, that is it for this week. As I say, we recorded this a day early, so I hadn't actually gone around to fully writing out the script for this one, let alone a review for Halloween Ends. But yes, thank you very much for listening, and stop whistling along, Dan, as if you couldn't give a toss.
Well, I was just doing like the innocent like whistling act, you know, like as if to say like I'm totally not responsible for you finishing half a script.
All right, Michael Bloody Myers.
So you were doing a Jurassic Park 3 with this episode where you just did half a script.
I just kept on saying to myself, Alan. If only. But yes, thank you very much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed it. As ever, you know, there's links to all our social media in the description. Next week, we're both going to be seeing another film, which I've already seen a little bit of already, because, you know,
you were a naughty boy.
Discussing spoilers for the next installment in the DC universe with Black Adam. This is a film I'm very much looking forward to seeing. I don't think Dan is, quite frankly.
I think I'm honestly gonna just kind of rock up to that cinema and just not go in with any expectations whatsoever. Put it that way. That's my opinion on this upcoming film.
But yes, we'll be talking about that next week. So as I say, thank you very much for listening. But until then, it is goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye. I promise my throat will get better.
Yeah, no, it won't. And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.